Greetings guys, and thank you for joining me today. I'm Chrysalis, and this is Woman on Wrestling. So unless you have been living under a very highly self-quarantined, self-isolation mode rock for the last week or so, this particular past week's episode of Monday Night Raw left us all with some wonderful and amazing news and some questions as to what is going to happen moving forward with the WWE. I'm going to cover it all for you today in this week's Pops and Blown Spots for Monday Night Raw, the night of May 11th, 2020. So to start off the night, I would actually like to start by going over the blown spots for me for this particular week. Obviously, we are still in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. There's still a lot of confusion as to how things are going to move forward. There's still a lot of confusion as to when things may or may not open up, and that is, of course, affecting the overall world, but especially sports entertainment and that of the WWE. We've gone weeks now with audience-free performances from the Performance Center in Orlando. There's been a lot of chatter online about whether we should be getting more audience participation back in anytime soon, and it's still all up in the air. Obviously, the WWE is going to do everything it can to protect the safety of not only its performers, but its audience, and they're probably weighing pros and cons to how they can handle things and what sort of phasing in they're going to do for that. But what I am finding as a somewhat blown spot for me with this week's review on Raw is that by having no audience participation whatsoever, things are starting to feel a little stale. They're starting to feel a little rehashed. We're starting to see things come about again that we've already seen multiple times, like Drew McIntyre versus Andrade. That was a wonderful match. The match itself was a huge pop for me. The two of them in the ring are amazing together. They have great chemistry. They work well. They know how to work together extremely well, and they obviously trust each other considerably. But we've seen it so many times now, especially in the last couple of weeks, that it's starting to feel old and stale. You also saw another match between Aleister Black and Rey Mysterio against Seth Rollins and the Disciple Murphy, and the match itself was really, really good. I really liked the storyline development going on with Seth. I'll get to that in just a minute because that's also a pop for me this week. But the blown spot for me was at the end of all that, backstage, when you had everybody checking on Mysterio and finding out what's going on, and you had Seth and Murphy go back there to check on Mysterio as well. You ended up getting another scuffle between Aleister and Murphy. And that's something we have seen time and time again. Now, with that, they might be very well kind of continuing that storyline or revamping that storyline, because the whole reason why Murphy is with Seth Rollins right now is because he was continually losing week after week after week to Aleister. So maybe it's finally getting to a point where Aleister is now going to lose to Murphy and sort of re-solidify him being Seth's disciple. That's the only way I can see that happening at this point. But the overall blown spot for me is that, again, because we're dealing with such limited resources, because we're dealing with a limited number of performers that not only feel comfortable coming to the Performing Center, but that can, you're running into an issue where you're starting to see a lot of repetition, and it's starting to really kind of wear on the WWE overall. So that in and of itself was the blown spot for me for this week, and was pretty much the major issue that I had with the whole entire show. Now, moving into the pops for the week. One of the things that I absolutely positively loved, and I didn't want to like it, I wanted to give it a blown spot, I didn't think it was gonna work, but was the Street Profits versus the Viking Raiders in a basketball game. Like, who would have thought that would have actually had been entertaining? But what I'm really loving, I'm actually really loving to see Ivar and Eric getting to do a lot more talking. They're not just these Vikings coming in and Viking smash and Viking raid and blah. That's not happening. What is happening now is you're actually getting them involved in dialogue. You're actually getting to see their personalities come out a little bit more. And there is a comedic aspect to it, but honestly, I like it and it works. And they do really well at it. So them playing against the Street Profits, who on their own are just amazing performers to begin with, especially from the dialogue and promo side, I didn't want to like the idea of them going into a basketball game. Like, what does that have to do with wrestling? But this whole we can do anything better than you can do angle and gimmick from the Raiders, I think, is just fun, and it was enjoyable, it was entertaining, it put a smile on my face. So I'm gonna make that a pop for the week, mainly because of the Viking Raiders. They were just awesome. Another pop for me this week was the return of the Iconics. I know that they are the type of tag team where people either absolutely love them or they absolutely hate them. I absolutely love them, and I will tell you why. The main reason why is because Peyton Royce and Billie Kay do every single thing that they can to give themselves over to these characters. Their characters are annoying, they are abrasive, their voices get on people's nerves. I understand why, I get it. They are these over-the-top, self-centered, diva-esque, childlike, just, you can throw whatever words you want at them, but they give themselves so completely over to these characters and selling these characters that it is just entertaining and fun. They're really strong in-ring workers. I'm glad to see a bit more tag team action going on within the women's division. I still think that there just shouldn't have to be a women's division. It should just be, you know, tag team champions, and you have the male and female tag team champions, but you don't ever allude to gender, but we'll get to that in another video. But I really enjoy how completely and totally these two women give themselves over to the characters and to the gimmick that they're portraying. It sells it, it makes it entertaining. They're really, really good on the mic. They're quick on their feet, and you can tell that they obviously work really well together, and you can tell that they have a very strong bond outside the ring, just outside of their work, and it shows. And whenever that happens, whenever you have that kind of lightning in a bottle, you need to use it, and I'm glad to see it being used. I'm going to go back to one more blown spot that I remembered from this particular episode of Raw this week, and that was Shayna Baszler. Now, a lot of people are really harping on how that particular spot went. I don't mind the cheap heat. I get where it was coming from. The way that it was delivered, though, and Shayna is very stiff when it comes to doing any sort of promo work. And this particular week, we had a very strong, promo-driven, outside the ring, more character development going on than we usually did. A lot of the character development right now, because of the circumstances, is being done outside the ring instead of inside the ring like it normally is, and unfortunately that is just not one of Shayna's strengths. She's great in the squared circle, she's wonderful on the mat, however she is absolutely stiff and unnatural when it comes to promos, and that showed this week, so that ended up being a blown spot for me. Another pop for me this week was honestly Seth Rollins. Now, I'm going to get to the main message and the main news that happened on Monday Night Raw in just a moment, but obviously this plays into Seth. And the reason why Seth was a huge pop for me this week is because the man never broke kayfabe. He was in character the whole entire time. You got to see his reaction and the fallout from his match with Drew McIntyre at Money in the Bank. You could tell that character-wise, that was still affecting him. And regardless of anything else going on in the episode that night, he was not going to break character. He was going to maintain that. He was going to carry it through. It showed during the match. He had a really good match, like I said, between Aleister Black and Rey Mysterio against Murphy and Seth. You got to see a very sadistic, villainous side to Seth. It's no longer just Seth playing this character and kind of believing all the hype, as it were. It's now taken to another level. And so there's a character progression there that's really strong, and I like the way it's going. It's really setting Seth up to be a penultimate heel, and I hope it continues in that direction. So that ended up being a huge pop for me. One other pop for me as well, to double back just a bit, was honestly Drew's promo after his match with Andrade. It's really nice to see Drew just getting to be himself. It was really cool to see Drew, self-censor because he realized he had to keep things PG, and he just sort of wanted to run with the promo the way it was going. Similar to Rey Mysterio prior to the match that he had with Seth, and some of the things he said, which you've watched the episode, you will know. If you haven't, go back and watch it, because why not? It was fun. And you got to see Mysterio sort of break character a little bit and not quite be this stoic, luchador that he normally is. But Drew's promo was also really good. It was really well done. I like the fact that they clarified that there's no longer necessarily brand performers, that performers can be on both Raw and SmackDown, because honestly, they just have a smaller pool to pull from right now, and they're going to have to make an accommodation for that. So it was good to have, Drew, who's the Universal Champion, who's, supposed to be the pinnacle of the sport right now, coming out and giving that information to the crowd. Now, to get to the major news that happened this week that had everybody up in just all sorts of conversation online. I mean, I'm filming this now on Thursday after Raw, so it's a couple of days later, and people are still talking about it on social media. And that was the news that my fave, the man, is now going to be the mom. Not to mention they dropped shirts for it the very next day. Like, how awesome is that we have these additional shirts that we can get? That was done so well. I'm going to try to grab Becky's tweet about that and post it up in here for you to see, because it was hilarious and it was traditional Becky. But in addition to that, it was just really, really fun to see that. I'm so happy for her and Seth. I know they had to put their wedding on hold for a bit because of this whole pandemic that's going on. But to know that they are now expecting and that they are going to be able to grow their families. What was also really interesting to me, and I can fully understand where these emotions were coming from, is you have this woman who has spent her whole entire life trying to get to where she currently is in her profession. She spent 7 years, taking a break from wrestling because she just wasn't sure she was actually cut out to do it. And she stumbled around and tried to figure out who she was. And when she was able to come back, when she was able to join the Performance Center in 2013, she was able to start building what we now know as the man, and as this wonderful performer who has brought so much joy to everyone's life, who has inspired and encouraged so many people. I don't think there has been a performer yet who has had such a flawless record. When it comes to out of the ring heat, she has none. Like, everybody loves her. Everybody gets along with her. She is supportive to everybody. So to know that she has this wonderful news that she's sharing, but then also to see the absolute raw emotion that she had in having to relinquish the belt. I mean, like I said, she has worked so hard to get to where she is in this industry, and love her or hate her, she is a legend at this particular point in time. She's gonna go down in the Hall of Fame. She has made a mark. She has brought considerable number of people into this sports entertainment world that weren't watching it before. She brought me back into wrestling. The whole reason why I'm even doing this now, I have to equate to Becky Lynch and to what she has done and to what she inspires me to do. And it's just really, really cool to know that she's going to be able to become a mom, which is also something she has always wanted to be. But there is a bittersweetness to that. I mean, to have that much drive, to have that much determination, and to be just as equally excited and happy and overjoyed about becoming a mom, but knowing you're gonna have to put something that you love equally as much on hold for an indefinite period of time, to figure this all out and to know what's going on. There's a lot of emotion there. There's a lot of bittersweet to that, because that's what that's her whole identity really is wrapped up in being a performer and being a wrestler and getting to the level that she has gotten to. And yes, becoming a mom is wonderful. It is, there's no feeling like it in the world. But then to know that you have to kind of put that side of yourself on hold and make that sacrifice, it's difficult. So I could fully understand and appreciate the emotions she was showing in the ring when she turned the belt over to Asuka, who of course had won Money in the Bank the night before. Asuka's reaction to it was equally wonderful to see. Here are these two performers. They completely broke kayfabe. And rightfully so. But here are these two women, these two performers that have spent all this time working together, developing that relationship, having those storylines together, and just creating that connection. And then to see Asuka so genuinely overjoyed and happy for Becky was absolutely amazing. So yeah, it was a great way to start off the night. I kind of wish they had put it a little bit later in the evening, because I think it overshadowed everything else that happened for the rest of the night. But it was just really nice to see. And if I could say anything, I would say to Rebecca and to Colby, congratulations, guys. I do not feel in any way, shape, or form that there are going to be two better parents than you guys out there. You guys are absolutely amazing. You've done so much for your professions, for each other, and for your friends and family, and for your fans as well. And I cannot be any more happier for you than I already am. I have been giddy for days. I've rewatched that clip a couple of different times, and that normally doesn't happen with me. And each time I watch it, I still get goosebumps just watching you guys, or watching Becky. So I would also like to say, say, if I could, to please give Seth some love. Obviously, it's not just Becky's storyline with that, you know, it's not just Becky's life, it's Becky and Seth. And please give Seth some love as well. He's going to be a dad. He deserves as much respect for that as well as Becky does being a mom. So please, if you can, take a few minutes and give a shout out to Seth as well. But you know, guys, as much as I hate to say it, I kind of want to make this video nice and quick. So again, thanks for spending some time with me. If you have enjoyed my reviews, my pops and blown spots for this week for the Monday Night Raw episode of May 11th, 2020, then by all means, please hit the subscribe button and notification bell below so that you can be notified when I upload new content. I do try to do so at least once a week. Usually once a week if I can manage it. And if you'd like this video, please by all means give me a thumbs up and a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And until next time, guys, enjoy and have a good one.